Hi, welcome everyone. This is Glenda Dawson, and I have Moon Girl here with me, and we
Hey, everyone.
Paranormal Dolls.
Dolls.
Um, uh, they're so cute, so cute. So how are you today,
We didn't
sweetie?
say what kind of doll, so maybe you get Annabelle.
We did say paranormal, though. You never
So you
know.
see,
Is that little
yeah,
me, that little ninja? You never know. Anyway, so how are you today, sweetheart?
I'm great. Really excited to see your beautiful face. You know this.
Oh, your face also. Hey, maybe we should just sit here.
And just stare lovingly into each other's eyes.
Yeah. So we do want to thank everyone who joins us every week, whether live or whether they catch it later in recording.
Yeah,
We appreciate the support, and please continue to share all of the podcasts and everything so we can then, you know, bring more content. Um, December is a
absolutely.
very interesting month because we had just gone through October, which the veil is thin or non existent, whichever the case may be. From year to year, it changes. And then we have November. We're all thankful and everything. And now comes December and everybody's stressed. Have you noticed that? It's
Well,
like,
the holidays, yes.
I know, but even the ghosts are stressed. Like, what is up with that? I walk into places, that are because very well. I do a lot of private stuff, so I don't really do a lot of the public stuff. And I walk into places, and I see the ghosts, and they're like they're stressed, and I'm like, what are you guys stressed about? You don't have to shop. You don't have to cook. Guys don't even do dishes because I've offered. I've asked. Nobody does dishes. So I was asking them what exactly, and
Oh my god.
they are like crazy. They're like stressed. You could feel that anxiety energy, and I'm like, so one did tell me about a week ago, and they said that the reason they all get stressed in December is because there's a new year coming, and to them it affects them a little bit different than does to us, but it still affects them. They remember, some of them remember when they were alive and they had all that gathering. So they relive that anxiety of, the right foods, the right atmosphere, and all that other stuff. Personally, I keep saying, chill. It's not like you're buying any presents, unless, okay, you want to give me a present? Okay, you could buy me one. But
Leave it to like a secret map where there's like treasure buried.
yeah, exactly. Leave that in my nightstand, right under my lamp, so
Your
I could find
stocking,
it.
your Christmas stocking.
So I could find it, and then I could go through the whole house
Yes.
in a treasure hunt.
With those little metal detectors.
Well, honestly, there is a section of my house that we really think there's a um, in between walls. There's like a cavity, and we're trying to
Oh,
figure out if there's something in there or not. Haven't gotten the metal detectors yet to do that, but it's very interesting. Very interesting. Um, we have the house, and um, it's just, I don't know. It's very interesting. So,
but it's a
enough
haunted
about
house as well.
it
So you
is
need
a
to tell the
haunted house,
audience about.
and that's
Yeah.
why I keep it secret where it is,
Oh,
because it's a haunted house. Oh Lord. So, Sarah, we do have a special guest today.
yay.
Yes, and his name is Jay Hill. And why don't we bring him in and let him tell us all about himself?
Okay.
Hi, Jay.
Hey,
How are
Hey,
how are
you?
you?
I am good. How are you, ladies?
Good.
Doing
Thank you
good.
for being here.
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, I was actually in the middle of just finishing my lunch after my first show, and yeah, everything gets really kind of busy on a Monday, but I made it.
Yay! So the audience is really interested in hearing about you and your experiences. I mean, I understand
Okay.
you've had experiences all your life, but
Right.
just tell us a little bit about it.
Well, my name's Jay Hill. I am a podcaster as well as a medium and a paranormal investigator. I do multiple things. I have my hands, so to speak, in a lot of different things. So right now, um, with the podcasting, I've got 2 shows that I do. I just ended my first show after 4 years,
Mm.
and so yeah, it's been kind of a bittersweet, but it's you know, it was about time. So I'm moving on to
On to
some
new
bigger things.
chapters.
And
Near check.
what's that?
On to new chapters.
It's exactly, and that's basically where I'm at right now. But talking a little bit about some of the stuff that I've experienced over the years, and which led me to where I'm at today, is the fact I have been affected by the paranormal my whole life, but it wasn't until probably 2013 when I had a stroke.
Mhm.
It kind of changed everything around my brain and everything, spiritually and mentally. I really I've always been gifted. It's been in the last 6 years, I would say 7 years, that I've really kind of come into some of my gifts to the point where I had to acknowledge them and I had
Mm.
to, and how the paranormal fits in my life instead of running away from it. So,
Mhm.
yeah, after I had my stroke and I had quit drinking and I had quit, all these things that were affecting me that I was using to run away from who I was. Yeah. So, I basically, with my podcast, with my other host, Kelly Schaefer, on the Cemetary Files, we do interviews and stuff like that. And we've been doing investigations, live investigations as well. So, that's kind of where I'm at. We've actually got something in the works really big that we just made an announcement with today, a soft announcement, because we couldn't, for legal reasons, we couldn't announce anything too big yet because of the fact that things are still working behind the scenes.
Mhm.
But those things will be coming out probably within the next month, and then once people will understand what we're doing, and we're working with some great people, as well as a good friend, an actor, Chris Todd, who's
Mm.
also going to be part of this project. And I'm just really excited to see how it starts to really unfold. So,
Sounds wonderful. Sounds wonderful.
Oh.
Something exciting to look forward to.
Do
definitely.
you think with your stroke, because I have a friend who's also a medium who had a stroke, and now he feels like he doesn't really trust his gifts as much. Do you think that yours kind of helped you develop
Yeah,
them more, or yeah?
yeah, yeah. It helped me. It helped me stop being afraid. It helped me to start open up and to be more aware and what my gifts are. I mean, anybody who is a medium and who is gifted, you're always going to have those moments where, you know, did I really see that, or did I really hear that, or you know what I mean? It's a normal emotional, and it's
Mhm.
something that you or a person as with gifts have to really start trusting themselves a little bit more than they're used to. And I've
Right.
always said that, having gifts and being a medium, um, it's kind of like a twofold thing. I mean, one side you've got, your doubts, and then the other side you have your confidence, and you've got to try to find a balance between the two so that you know that your gifts are real and you're not going insane, and you're progressing to where you need to be, and trusting yourself just for anybody is not an easy thing to do. Even if you're not gifted, just trusting yourself in general, you know, is an uphill battle for some people. And it was for me. I had to really force myself to, take a hard look at who I was and what I was doing in my life and what I wanted to do. And once I realized that I have an ability to help people and, help situations, and it just it made me more confident in who I am, you know. So
Yeah. And well, like the saying goes, truly talented and intelligent people always question themselves. You know, the
Mhm.
imposter syndrome, and a fool will always think they're right.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
we know a
Yeah.
few. Let's make a list.
Yeah. Right. Right. I know a few of those people. So. So yeah.
So, tell us about some of your experiences as you were growing up. That
Excuse me. Let me see. My first real experience I had in the paranormal was I knew that things were different with me. I would see the world in a different way than everybody else would see it.
Mhm.
So I was always aware of the paranormal. I have a sister who's a year older than me, and we are the only two redheads in the. Well, my hair is blonde now because I just dyed it, but I'm a natural redhead. So there's only two redheads
Our
in the
hair is
family.
natural too, right, Glenda?
Yeah, well,
We've never dyed it.
I never
so
died it.
Never.
my sister, my dad had jet black hair, my mom had brown hair, and my other two sisters have blonde and brown hair. And
Mhm.
I me and my sister Melinda had red hair. Now, had this ability to sense things unlike my other sisters, you know, that things were kind of different in the world,
Mhm.
especially when it came to the paranormal. My first experience, my true experience with paranormal came when I was 19. No, stretch that 16. Um, moving into an old house, and it was kind of like a mansion, but it was an old house, and it was downtown in the town that I live by right now. Um, Back in high school, and when me and my sister first walked into this place, we looked at each other because we knew right away
Mhm.
that there was something there. As we moved in and as months went on, the weird things would be happening. Like doors would be locking, coffee pot would be left on, turned on, and different footsteps here and there, which was fascinating at that as a 16-year-old kid who kind of was aware of the paranormal. I was like, yeah, this is really pretty cool. Um, there was one instance where I was sleeping and I woke up because like somebody woke me up, and there was a female standing at the foot of my bed, and she had this look on us, like this discerning look, like can I trust you type look. And I was I was like yelling at her saying what, like I was more mad that she woke me up than for me to be
That
able to
sounds like you,
contact her.
Glenda.
Yeah.
And yeah, so later on, the next morning, and I was downstairs telling my mom this story, and she was a skeptic, and she was like, "You're making this up," and I said, "No, I really am not." And then 5 minutes later, my sister come down and said, "You'll never guess what happened last night." And I'm like, "What? Like you had this female at the foot of your bed?" She goes, "Yeah. How do you know?" I said, "Because I had the same thing happen." So that whole thing we experienced, we knew that there was something there, and um, that was for me to see a whole full body apparition. It looked solid as you and me. I mean, it was just, and it was totally bizarre. And so after that, we kind of were expecting a little bit more things to happen, which it did, and this and that. And we ended up moving from that place, which was sad because I loved that house. And then, as time went on, I was getting into more of the partying aspect of it as a teenager and not really paying attention to too much to paranormal stuff. And I was kind of looking right
Mhm.
past it. And it wasn't until I was in my 20s when my gifts were still there, and I knew that they would come and go, but I was looking at getting an apartment with this girl I was with in this small town that I didn't even know where it was. And when I walked into this place, it was I started getting flashing visions of certain things that had happened in
Mhm.
this house, and they were gore details, but it was pretty disturbing. And I wanted my sister who lived close by to come and visit this place because I trusted her instinct just as much as I trust mine now. And she couldn't make it. So the girl I was with, we decided to take the apartment, and it was an upstairs apartment. And then as soon as we moved in, things started to happen. And she was at work, and I was home, and I was in the shower, and this was a small bath. It was like almost right next, butted up against the door to the bathroom, and I had one of those smoked screens for a shower, and so then I saw the door open, and I saw somebody walk through, close the door, and I thought, oh, that's my girlfriend at that time. I was like, oh, I'm like, so I started talking and saying, how was your day? Da, 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 da. I got no response, and I'm like, huh, that's odd. So I got done. I opened up the door, and there's nobody in the bathroom. I'm like, so I dry off, and I go out to the kitchen, and my girlfriend at that time had just walked up the stairs, and she walked in. I said, where'd you go? And she says, what do you mean? And I said, I could have swore that you just came into the bathroom with me, when I was in the shower, and I was talking to you, and I got no response. I said, what's up? And she said, I just got home from work. I was like, oh. So then I was like, oh. Then a light went off, and then I'm like, okay. It was somebody came after that. Small things would happen here and there, and I would be aware of them. If somebody had some type, as I was growing older, some people would have a question like, what is this? Or, what is going on? And I would have to kind of tap into my gifts to figure out what it is. Because, like I said before, I was still trying to run away from who I was. So those are a couple instances of when I had something profound that actually happened to me.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
It's good that you and your sister could confide in each other, because not too many people have that growing up.
Oh yeah, no, we weren't friends by any means. I mean, we were an age apart, a year apart, and we got along, sparingly. But it wasn't until after my mother passed away that we buried the hatchet and then became good friends. So that was probably in 2007. So yeah.
Okay. So when you told your parents about any of this,
Oh, I told my mom about this. My mom didn't believe it. My mom, yeah.
yeah,
But
that
Did they ever end up believing you, your family?
I never talked to my father about it because my mother told me never to talk to my father about it. And then later on, I come to find out from other mediums that that's where I get my gift from, is on my dad's side. So yeah. So my mom knew something, because when we first walked into that house, me and my sister, and looked at each other like, oh wow. We overheard my mother tell my father, don't get them started. And my dad said, what? I didn't say anything. She's like, you know what I mean. So my mom was probably aware.
Yeah.
But she basically, so that's why when I told her I had a dream about my grandfather coming to me in my dream, and my dad was sick at that time, and he was saying, support your dad, he loves you kids, and he's going through this rough time with cancer and this and da. And I told my mom that dream, and she said, don't ever tell your father. And I never really understood why until now, is that my dad was privy to that information like I am. It's just the fact that my mom didn't quite acknowledge it like that. You know what I mean? It was kind of like something that wasn't brought up.
Right.
So
So tell us about some of the places you have investigated.
that
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have a team, or do you go by yourself, or?
I used to have a team. I used to be on Wisconsin Paranormal Research. I had that for a while, and then I disbanded it last year just because of the fact that most of my members on my team had moved away. So, and plus, I was just starting the podcast, so I didn't really have time to really do that. So, I do have a team that I've created called Souls Paranormal,
Hmm.
um, Spirits of Untold Life Stories.
Okay.
So, that is kind of on a shelf. I mean, I still have some friends that I do work with that are part of this team, but I don't actively pursue it because I got so much stuff going on that I just don't have time. But there where I used to do my first podcast was in a spirited, I would say spirited because I respect this place. It's a hotel in where I live in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, and it was the first building that was being 56 on
Mhm.
in Lake Geneva. So it holds great history. A couple presidents there. So the one place that the one place that I out to this is the one place that I'm always proud to mention is the fact that um, Ronald Reagan courted Nancy there once. So
Mm.
yeah. So I did my podcast there for a year, and I actually doing some interviews. I actually had some activity on live stream, which was fun. It was really cool. So I've investigated that place a couple times. It's one of my favorites. Most of the spirits know who I am. So yeah, I've done speaking events there. I've done gallery readings there. So that's probably one of my favorite places to go. I also have um, another place that I like to investigate, or that I did investigate with the show once with Cemetery Files. It's called the Fargo Theater in Illinois, and it's now a skate shop. It used to be an old theater back in the day in the 20s, and this lady had bought the land or bought the building, I guess, and turned it into a skate shop. It used to be a roller rink in the 60s, so it already had the big area where the seats were and stuff. That place is really cool to investigate too. The history there alone is a big aspect. History is a
Mhm.
big draw for me, especially when it comes to buildings. So that's just a couple that I could say that I really care for, that I was glad to be able to investigate there.
Sounds
So
like very nice buildings, very nice places. Yeah.
What's some of the
yeah,
more memorable evidence or experiences you've had with the paranormal?
um, one of them is I was actually at the cemetery where like a third of my family are buried in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, and I actually had my recorder, which was I used the recorder on my phone, and I was driving around in the cemetery one day, and I was stopped on part of the cemetery, and I was asking if was there anybody here, anybody want to communicate or talk with me, da 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 da. I got the let me go back. Okay, so I recorded and then I went home, and then when I listened to it, it basically the name Helen. I was like, oh, okay. So I went back to that spot and found out that where I was parked by a grave, and her first name was Helen.
Mm.
So it was a pretty clear EVP. That was one of my favorites. For evidence wise, I've also had other evidence, EVP evidence, where I've gotten in the downstairs, what's now called the Speakeasy at the hotel where I did my podcast. I was asking who was there and this and that, da, 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 and I said, I'm going to leave this here. If you have anything to say, you can say it inside this recorder. I went out a couple minutes, probably 10 minutes later, came back in. reviewed it, and it said, "Where is Susan?" And I was like, okay, there isn't anybody that works in the bar named Susan. Come to find out that there used to be a 1920s socialite named that used to frequent that location. And so, and then later on when I came there to do it, she would pop in every once in a while. And yeah, life of the party, you know. So that was
Her
pretty
old ghost friends were looking for her.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I've had a lot of just personal experiences. I've caught some things on my spirit box. I've had more. I've been touched. I've been shoved. Actually, saw. I was actually in a. I was in a Wendy's building, a Wendy's restaurant, and I was in line to get food. One day, and I got shoved. I'm like, who's pushing me? And I was about ready to talk to the person that was behind me waiting in line to give him the what's its, and I turn around and nobody's there. Okay, so what happened was, as soon as I turned back around, I got this vision of this short old lady, angry, and I'm like, what is your
Brenda,
deal?
that sounds like you again.
Yeah. So come to find out that there used to be a farmhouse on that property because it was all business, like all warehouses. Now it's not farmland anymore.
Right.
And there used to be an old farm there where the husband and wife and kids and had the farm, and she was kind of like, what are you doing in my kitchen, type thing. Yeah, that I've been kind of touched a couple different times, and whispered in my ear, heard my name. It's just every day it's something. So
Sounds about right. Sounds about right. It's,
What are you doing in my kitchen? She must have been Latina.
oh my gosh, she was just unhappy.
Definitely Latina.
Yeah.
Well, in those days, only the lady of the house went into the kitchen unless they had maids or servants. But the lady of the house was the only one allowed in the kitchen.
Correct. Right.
Yeah. So
Right.
you stepping in there probably set her off.
Right. Right. The frequency and the energy must have been just right for that location and that spot where I was standing there.
Yeah.
That energized that either a type of residual vision for her and to be there.
Yeah.
It's all in frequencies,
Exactly.
and people don't see in waves. So
now I do have to ask, did you ever go back and try to stand in that same place to see if she would communicate with you further?
That was at a place in my life right then where like I said, unexpectedly,
right,
and I wasn't really where I needed to be able to do that. I didn't entertain it. I knew what it was, and I left it at just at that. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Now, if I would experience that, then I would have interacted. Because I don't. I'm not anywhere near where I was back then. That was probably 20 years ago. So I'm a completely different person from then.
Absolutely. A lot happens in a year, so imagine 20. Yeah. Now, what got you wanting to start a podcast, period, in the first place?
I was a guest on a few podcasts, and the moment I experienced dead air really didn't resonate with me. And then when I was done, I kind of said, I know I can do this better. I know I can do this. and then spirit basically said, then do it. So a couple days later, I see a post with this guy asking for someone to be a co-host on a paranormal podcast, and I said, "What are the odds of that?"
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I did, and I contacted him, and we talked about it, and he was like, I said, "Yeah, I'll be your co-host." He's like, "Yeah, actually, you can, if you want, you could be the host." I was like, "Okay."
Mhm.
He said, "You can do whatever you want, and set it all up and do it everything." He said, "I just want to be able to show up and do a show." I'm like, "Okay." So I went from thinking about doing it to being a co-host to being the host to doing everything,
Mhm.
and that's basically what I did, and that's basically how I created Studio 6 Paranormal Podcast
Right.
to Studio 6 Productions, because I needed to create more of that.
Right.
You know what I mean? I needed to be able to expound this, I guess I could say, but yeah.
Mhm. So everyone, the link is
Yeah,
right
and
on
then
here, and so go follow him on YouTube. Studio
yeah,
6
please do.
Paranormal
My
26.
yeah, my my numbers hasn't been up, but that's fine because integrated with paranormal stuff on YouTube right now that it's kind of like a needle in a
Yep.
haystack.
Mm.
Well, where
Which
can they find
it is
you?
what it is.
Where can
Yeah.
the audience find you?
They can find me on TikTok, J Paranormal on TikTok, and then they can also find me on Twitter, Studio 6 Productions on Twitter, and they can also find me on J Paranormal on Instagram, Studio 6 Productions on Instagram, and Studio 6 Productions on Facebook, and JD.Hill on Facebook. I think that's it.
Mhm.
Oh, and Threads. I'm on Studio 6 Productions on Threads. I'm everywhere.
Yeah.
Now you kind of hinted that there was like some new things that you're working with. I know without giving out too much, do you think you can give us a little bit of a
I'll
clue?
give you a little bit. It's
A
a
little
big.
teaser.
It's a really big deal. Excuse me. I'm working with my friend and co-host Kelly Schaefer from the Cemetary Files. She's a paranormal group called K2PN, and yeah. So when we hooked up to do the show, things kind of just snowballed. I mean, we got along very well. Our beliefs lined up together in that sense, and we basically have a love for history. So
Mm.
we were approached by a nonprofit organization in helping haunted historical locations.
Nice.
Nice.
Okay, so we want to be able to um, bring back history into the fold of society. So,
Wow.
and we've also discussed too that it doesn't necessarily have to be haunted. You know what I mean? We want to be able to preserve history,
Right.
and so having the people that we have, we're this group that we're doing this project with. There's Studio 6 is also partnered with this nonprofit, and will be representing the production side of this of this project. So yeah, there's in about the next month. I mean, things are gonna really kind of explode into something really big, and this goes back to my belief in wanting to help people,
Wow.
and to help
Congratulations.
certain. Yeah, so I thank you for that, and yeah, it's gonna be huge. Like I said, I mean, once we get to the closer to the point where everything make a public, our I's are dotted, we'll make a
Mhm.
proper one, be able to go from there. We also have fundraising for this project that's still going. That's under Studio 6 Productions. They can find that link into my TikTok, on Facebook under Studio 6 Production. Like I've said before, anybody that wants to give to this cause, our first actual project is going to be in Gunslingers Gulch, which is right south, I think south of Anaconda, Montana. If anybody doesn't know what Gunslingers Gulch is, if anybody has seen Ghost Town Terror on Travel Channel, that is the place that our first project is going to be.
Nice.
And I'm good friends with Karen Broussard, the owner of that place, and yeah, I'm just excited to be able to help her and continue that business, because that is her business, and that is, she lives there, she takes care of the whole property. So you can also see Gunslingers Gulch on Facebook, as well as Ghost Town Terror on Travel Channel, as well as there's a page on Facebook. And Studio 6 is tied to that and that production aspect of it. So like I said, but that is the first project that we are working on. And when we get in through all the legality of everything, then we'll make an announcement.
Looking
Can
forward to it.
Can you tell us a little bit about that location, though, for people who don't know or aren't aware of that place?
Gunslingers Gulch is basically a respite place where people can go visit and experience the Old West from like the 1800s. I mean, it's just all the buildings that were brought there in the beginning years ago to be a dude ranch, and the lady, it didn't happen, so she ended up selling the whole town, and that's where my friend Karen came in, and she purchased it, moved her family out there, wanted to start a bed and breakfast, and wanted to, have all these buildings on this street be able to where people can experience different aspects of the Wild West, stay in these buildings, enjoy the scenery. It's just, they have camping there, they have a lot of different facets to this place. So Travel Channel, I guess, had approached them and wanted to be able to do a show there because of the fact that the rumor was it was haunted, and to be honest with you, the majority of the buildings have their own story to tell, and that's part of why we want to be able to help her, and we want to be able to help tell the story of each of these buildings, because they came around from different aspects of different towns. There was some from Butte and some from Anaconda, some from surrounding areas. So they never were on the same street really with each other. Maybe a couple of them, but no. So when you see pictures of this house, I have some pictures up on. If you go to Ghost Town Terror on Facebook, you can also see the pictures and the comments and stuff. Or you can just watch the show. Now, I have watched the show, and it's a good 2 seasons. Some of the things, the only thing I'm going to say about that place is that there are things there that are legit, and then there's some things that are not there. And that's all I'm going to say, because I want to be able to shine the light on this place, that this place is a great place to go if you want to experience the Old West.
Right.
It's a ghost town, literally.
It sounds like a fun place to go. Let's go.
Yeah,
Let's go, Glenda.
Right. And anybody who's gifted, you'll have a fun time.
I can feel it already.
Yeah. So,
well, it's nice that you are trying to preserve history, and that you're bringing it to light also. Because a lot of people see an old abandoned building, but they don't bother to really find out about the building, the history of it, how did it become, who lived there, who built it, all that, families that live there. And I'm the same way. I like to go into a building and find out all about it. That's why I live in a 1900 house.
Right.
And it's amazing to me how, if you really look into it, how everything then makes sense. The spirits that are there make sense. What they're doing makes sense. What they're not doing makes sense.
Right.
And what you see and experience.
Right. What a lot of people don't realize too is that, when people can renovate an old house or an old building or something like that, and put their hard-earned money into doing it to bring it back to what it was, that could be Not saying all the time, but that could be just what that spirit that was there was wanting and was hanging out because of the fact that it was so dilapidated or it was falling apart, and she or he could not take pride in that building what it was once. And when somebody comes along like us and tries to help restore that, maybe that's something that spirit needed, that completion to be able to move on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Maybe they were like, these people are taking care of this. I don't need to be here anymore. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's different facets and different angles that you can look at why we're working on doing what we're doing and preserving history and growing from that aspect of not to forget history, but to revive history so that people never forget.
Mm-hmm.
People are too apt to forget and just wipe it under the rug and sweep it under the rug and then just call it a day. And when you talk to some of the people or younger kids nowadays, you bring up a historic location that had great history that was written in books and everything. They have no idea what you're talking about. That's got to change. We want people and younger generations to appreciate not only the history aspect of it, but the positive dreams that somebody had while they were building this location.
Mm-hmm.
Inspire people.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly, because it isn't just you look at a building, oh, it was built, whatever. But in those times, it took a lot to
Blood, sweat,
do
and
a building.
tears it took to build them buildings.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and the buildings now don't stand like these old ones.
No. No.
So
The bones to some of these older buildings
Yep.
can outdo any of the new ones in a heartbeat.
Yep.
They stood through sense of time, and they're there and they're strong. And yes, okay, some may need a little here and a little there, but once that's taken care of, they're back to its beautiful self.
Mhm.
Uh, and I don't know about you, but I walk into an older place and I actually feel like at home.
Oh yeah.
Where you walk
Yeah.
into some of the newer buildings and you feel cold.
Exactly. There's no structure, there's no foundation to it. You know what I mean?
There's no heart to it.
Right. Exactly. There's no heart to it. Right.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that I read in your bio you're an author as well, or am I wrong about it? I'm sorry.
As not of yet.
Oh.
I'm working on a book, but I'm not until my book gets published or gets finished. Then I will I will proudly say that I'm an author of what. Yeah, that's remains
An
to be
author in
seen.
progress.
Yeah, right. So yeah, but yeah, I have a book that I'm just starting, and it's slow going. I'm so busy. But
Well, you also have to, being an author, I already published one and I'm working on 4 more. You have to be inspired at the right moment. You have to sit and actually be set to go. And sometimes you should sit there and you're like, okay, well, I want to talk about that, but
right.
I don't know where to put it. And then you just make an outline at first, because all these things want to come out, but it's just not sure which way to go. So yeah, sometimes being an author is. I wish it was easy.
Yeah, right.
Can you give us a little bit of? Oh, go ahead, Glenda.
So, well, in regarding the book, what I wanted to ask is, what kind of subject? I know
It's
it's probably
basically a life biography.
okay.
Yeah.
So to heal others, that's good.
Right. So basically, since the one thing that I know that I really haven't really got into it fully yet is because of the fact that I'm still writing the chapters, and I want to, and not that I want to wait till the very end, but I just know that there are more things that are coming that I'm going to be able to put into that. You know what I mean? And I don't want to have to go back and say, oh, I need to add that, or I need to add. It's just there are certain moments where you kind of realize that writing a book or doing anything that's of substance like that, it's got to be the right moment,
Mhm.
and you as an author know that when the
Mhm.
moment hits you, you just know it, and then you better
Yep.
have that pen and paper ready.
Right.
So, but it also goes with whatever else that somebody else is doing. Can be an investigation, or it could be something. You know what I mean? If the
Mhm.
time is right, then you'll know.
Yes.
For people like you and I, gifted people, and
Mhm.
everybody's gifted. You just have
Mhm.
that extra instinct, and it's nice to have.
Mhm.
So,
Yes, it's like my book, my first book. I I wanted to wait, and then I kept hearing, no, take it now, now,
yeah,
now,
yep,
and I'm like,
yep,
but I'm the sequels, the prequels. That no, no, now, okay, okay,
yeah,
I'll
yeah, yeah,
get
yeah.
this one out.
Right,
But I
right.
understand what hearing spirit telling you and directing you. That's another things to too.
Yep,
It's like
yep,
they may say not just yet,
yep,
not
yep,
just yet,
yep.
and
My
so
biggest thing is patience. I get reminded of that very much. So,
patience. Yeah, sometimes that's hard to come by.
hmm,
So, and well, congratulations, because I know you'll get that out and you'll
yeah,
get it published at the right time,
hmm,
which, from what I hear, would be within a year. So,
yeah, yeah. That's what I'm shooting for.
yeah, there you go. They're basically saying he could do part two and part three if he wants to.
Right, 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 right.
You're getting him nervous now, Glenda. He's like, wait,
Yeah,
hold up.
yeah, I know.
Let me just finish the first one.
Oh no, they already have a whole thing for him.
Oh yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
Mm. Now, what made you think about doing the two different podcasts? I know you said about one you could do it better, but what are?
Um. Well, I had the one, and then last year,
Mhm.
me and my other co-host, Shane Feek, we took off the summer because he has a lot of different things going on during the summer with him and his wife, and they do a lot of and stuff like that. So he wasn't just working this new job as a grill chef and working in a private
Right.
country club and working tons of overtime hours. I didn't have time to do it, so we basically decided to take that month off or that summer off.
Okay.
Well, not that I realized that after in the spring, and I saw somebody, we thought you quit. Where did you go? And don't do that again. I mean, it was just that people were really worried and kind of like they thought that I just gave up and quit. Well, no, we made an announcement that we were taking the summer off, but when nobody doesn't watch your show, don't know, so I didn't want to be out of the limelight, so to speak.
Right.
So I said, yeah, I'm not in the summer. So then when I was thinking about doing another podcast and calling it the Cemetery Files, uh, Kelly Schaefer was the only one that kept coming up on my feed, her picture, and I wasn't even friends with her on Facebook. And her picture kept coming up everywhere, and I'm like, okay, I get it. So I contacted her, and she was like, okay. And then once we got it started, she was like, she understood more and more why I tapped her to be my co-host or my
Right.
host. We do things 50-50, do everything 50-50. You know, she's a host, I'm a host.
Right.
She's really not technically my co-host. She's a host.
Mhm.
And so that's the way everything we down to the Paracon money to everything's split in the middle. We pay dice, we split it. And it's been that way
Mhm.
from the beginning, you know. So
That's
yeah,
good.
so I wanted to be able to do that, and I wanted to be able to, function, go to functions like Paracons and stuff like that, which we did, and so yeah, I just wanted to not be invisible in that sense. I wanted to be able to let people know that I'm here. You can still get good content, if you just watch the
Mhm.
show. But yeah,
So,
so
so what do you see besides that project we can't talk about? What do you see in your future?
um actually I am not really privy to any more of that information. I've been trying to figure out a little bit ahead of time, but because of the fact that what happens is if I go too far ahead, I will lose focus of what I'm doing
Right.
right now.
Okay.
So when I say that spirit doesn't let me be privy to that information, you
Uh-huh.
know, I'm kind of used to it, you know. There will be some things that I don't try to look too far ahead. I may look a couple months, but usually most for the most part, I've learned that it's easier to deal with the certain aspects of being gifted and having, you know, these abilities to do this when you're not looking 10
Right.
miles or 10 years ahead or whatever. I have been able to do 6 months at the most, but with that, instead of getting pictures or images or words, I get a chart of where things will increase. And it's, I don't know why, but I will see a chart with uh, a bar graph that certain parts of the month were up and then some were normal. And I can usually line those up.
Very
So
nice. Well, that's your
yeah, I like
dictionary.
to stay. I kind of like to stay in the now.
That's your dictionary with them, so it's good.
Yeah.
Um, I'm, I'm amazed. I'm amazed that you're thinking about doing such a big project, and congratulate you. I know that Sarah and I
Thank you.
really proud of those that are always thinking of the history of the places, not just and trying to
Absolutely.
conserve them, not just go in there like
Yeah.
Rambo. I demand, I
Right.
demand you to speak to me
Right.
and
Right.
And be
come out.
Right.
respectful of the spirits there and everything.
We're
Honor
basically,
them.
yeah, we're basically going to kind of show them on that Studio 6 production side of it what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. You know,
Tell us a
yeah.
little bit about the Studio 6.
Studio 6 basically, like I said, it's because it came. I birthed that from Studio 6 Paranormal Podcast because I was thinking of different name changes, but once I got to the point where I'm just going to call it Studio 6 Productions because of the fact that it encompasses a lot of different ideas that I have for creating content and interacting with other peoples and other teams, businesses and stuff like that because I wanted to be able to be limited to just, you know, if I would have stuck with like um, Wisconsin Paranormal Research,
Mhm.
yeah, I could, you know, expand out to doing other things with that, you know, but it's just, but when you name you know, the state in your title of what you do, I felt like I was limiting myself. And so when I
Mhm.
disbanded that and then I, you know, had other things going on, but then when I got Studio 6 Productions, I kind of opened up the door for different avenues of not only the paranormal, but working with, you know, either musicians or actors or somebody that I can encompass something or that they could take something positive from me that I could
Mhm.
give to them, you know. And so that's basically why Studio 6 exists the way it is today. So,
Very good. Very good.
I agree
Well,
with you.
yeah.
Broaden the horizons.
mhm, mhm, yeah,
So,
yeah.
give us your contact info on Facebook and so on again. So,
Okay, people can
even
find
though
me.
it will be on the description, but
Okay, people can find me on Facebook under jd.hill, and they can find me also on Facebook on Studio 6 Productions, as well as the Cemetery Files, which I might add is possibly getting a name change.
Mhm.
So, but we'll still have it. So, and that'll be a little bit. Yeah, it's not right away. You can also find me at J Paranormal on TikTok
Mhm.
and J Paranormal on Instagram, as well as Studio 6 Productions on Instagram and Twitter. Well,
Okay.
X, but I won't ever call it X.
No, it's
I know,
It'll,
that's so weird.
so weird.
it'd still be Twitter, you know. So yeah,
Yeah, no, I
Agreed.
have a hard time with the X part.
I know. I think a lot of people do.
Well, we want to thank you. And please hold on for a second as we say goodbye to our audience. Thank you, Moon Girl, as
Thank
always.
you, guys. Thank you for being our guest, Jay, and
Yeah.
thank you, Glenda.
All right,
It's
sweetheart.
been my pleasure.
Fantastic. We'll have to have you back soon,
Hmm.
especially after you announce that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
But
Most definitely.
yes.
And maybe you can come with your co-host next time too, so y'all can go
Awesome. I will mention it to her.
All right. Thank you,
get him in
everyone.
here.
Thank you, everyone. And as always, we'll see you next week. And we love you. Bye.